Hello, welcome back to DMs Anonymous. And with us, as always, the man from another land with the master plan, Andreas. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing okay. I'm not sure I have any master plans that I am willing to divulge anyway. But,
And
but if you hear about a Dane trying to take over world domination, I'm not saying it's not me.
and as always, with us, the protector and taker of Elven virginity, our queen of criticals, Ari.
Hello.
Hey, hey, how you doing, Ari?
I am doing just fine. I'm, plotting, scheming, which I will admit to.
Now, the real question is, have you taken Elven virginity? I mean,
That's a fantastic question, and should probably ask around about that. There's certainly
admits to
potential
nothing.
for it.
So, as always, we are a member of the Broken Jars broadcasting family. Check us out at brokenjars.xyz. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/broken jars. And if you want to support us in another way, if you look down the show notes, there is a link to Drive Through RPG, which we are now affiliated with. So for all your RPG needs, you can help us keep the lights on. And it is one of those things where all that money doesn't go into their pocket. It just helps keeps the servers on and the lights on and everything else, so we can bring you this content.
If you're gonna buy and drive through RPG anyways, do us a solid.
Do us a solid. Yeah, that's right. And they're great. They have a lot of official content, physical content too, all sorts of great stuff. But today we are talking about NPCs, which is probably one of the harder parts of being a DM.
I would say it can be pretty challenging, especially if players go off script and you have to think of an NPC like really fast.
So do you have
my players all the time?
You mean every player's all the times?
Yeah, exactly.
So what kind of stuff do you do to do you have a bag of tricks to if they do go off the rails, how you build an NPC real fast?
For me, I usually have a bag of names that I'll pull from, and then I'll just look at the race list and just pick one at random and just kind of go from there.
I've thought about building an Excel spreadsheet with a macro that I can click a button that'll do it for me.
That'd definitely be a good idea.
But that takes effort and I'm tired. The names are the hardest part for me. I am terrible at naming things anyway. Even when I'm writing, I'm terrible at names. If you look at a lot of my work in progress for different books I'm writing, they'll be insert name here in a lot of them for different people.
Just do like Brandon Sanderson, just make up weird sounding shit. Be like, yeah, that sounds like a name. I mean, they can't say it's not because I made it up.
Precisely.
Another thing I like to use is NPC for Hire. I don't know if it's on iOS, but it's on Android, and it's a really nice app that creates a background and a little short story for NPCs.
I mean, I have two ways. I have my prepared NPCs that are not them that might have some quests attached to them. I have some prepared NPCs that are just these could be thrown in at any time. And then I have a list for I've mostly played Dungeons and Dragons, and there I had a list of names for each race and kind of quick occupation and a short description, a set and made at 20 of each or something.
That's a lot of effort.
I mean, it wasn't really that much. I mostly went in, found some generators, and then changed it a little, and then wrote it down and had it ready.
Changed, i.e., stole.
It's a generator. It's made to be. And then I was like, no, this doesn't fit right. I was going to change that a little bit.
So what's your favorite NPC that you've got to play?
my favorite like archetype or like the favorite actual NPC I've played.
Actual NPC, yeah.
Are we counting GMPCs for this?
Yeah. Anything.
I wouldn't be able to count GMPCs because I fervently think that's a bad idea, and you shouldn't do that.
Well, that is in our mailbag, so we'll get to that.
I usually try and avoid GMPCs unless it's like an active part of the story. But even then, I try and keep them out of the spotlight and let the character, like the players, have like full reign on what's going on.
Yeah.
But
I think the NPC I've enjoyed playing the most was the kind of the good troll I made once. I think I told you about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, the quasi GMPC for my Sunday game, Sorcerer Paladin, who's kind of like with the party and is like this bright, cute bundle of joy, and the rest of the party are like these like hardened former mercenaries, and just like, okay, we're in this because we feel an obligation to help you, but also you're so stinking peppy. Please stop. At least that's how I feel like 90% of the time.
Probably the favorite one I got to play was a character I called Holy. And he was a literal hole in the wall. So it was like, so the players could like put him on a wall and like reach through him, and he had like arms and legs. So it was like sort of like a cartoon character. But he was also like a raving drunk. So he was like really pissy all the damn time. Like whenever they would use him, he'd be like cursing at him, like "fuck you" and all this stuff. Like, or say really inappropriate things, like "ooh, that tickles" or whatever.
Oh my god, that's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, the more random NPCs are always fun when you can just like make things up.
Oh, totally. No, there was a random NPC. It was a tiefling named Kurt, who was like the customs officer that the party met. And he was like totally up on his legal stuff. And he was like, "You are trying to entrap me, sir. I'm not going to respond to this question until I have a lawyer."
Sorry, whenever anyone is named Kurt, all I can think of is Gilmore Girls.
That's entirely fair. I've actually been watching Gilmore Girls. It's been on TV lately.
Oh, it's on Netflix, so we've been going through it. I'm trying to like, this is off topic, but like we watched it last year and we got to the final season and they did one of the tropiest things that I hate the most, and I quit. So we're like trying to
the final old season or the new final season.
The original final season.
Okay.
I hate when they bring in kids, like just to create havoc. Like that is like the tropiest thing that I hate the most.
Do you hate when they bring in kids to? You're not a Home Alone fan?
No. Like oh, there's a mystery child you didn't like. The character didn't know he had, and now it's causing strife in the relationship. That kind of thing, and I hate it. I hate that so much. But if you ever listen to like high fantasy, there's probably a solid 15-minute rant of me on one of those episodes, just going off on it. like it works in some situations, like in Dresden Files, it doesn't really bother me, but it's not like it's a plot device, but it doesn't like completely derail the character and the solutions. But it's just
it's not manufactured tension.
Right.
On that note, on the Dresden Files, that's where I mandatorily have to say, "Fuck Susan."
There. I mean,
have to say that.
Harry did. I mean,
yeah.
Anyway, back to NPCs. So, when you are building an NPC, like how often do you make them an integral story point, or are they more just like, "Hey, I have a quest for you"?
I've done both. both definitely really integral, and sometimes the party has gotten super attached to an NPC, and they return to that same NPC over and over again because they like him or her, like the troll. Like he became like it was like a regular thing for the rest of every time they got back to the town where it was near. It was like, oh, let's go see the troll and the girl.
Do you?
Definitely.
Oh, go ahead. No.
I was just gonna say, it definitely means that like that character made an impact that it's worth them going back to visit. Because I've kind of had not so much an issue with it, but like a character, an NPC who is a part of one of my PC's backstory that they've interacted with like twice, even though she's been in town, and like I've kind of like dropped, like, hey, she's here, you can talk to her and have interactions with her. But to be fair though, most recently we did have an absolutely wonderful conversation on, hey, you kind of work for the church. Why are we working with cultists right now? And the Inquisitor was like, honestly, I don't know. She's like, your hate boner for the BBEG is that big, ain't it? And he was like, yeah, that's about the best way we can put it, ain't it?
I have never heard that term before. Hate boner. I'm going to have to start using that one. It is now a part of my dialect.
Excellent. I'm so glad.
Yeah, a little bit of a hate boner.
So what issues do you find, especially making an NPC like really integral to the story?
Like, what do you mean?
So, like, if they're more than just like we're here for beyond like big bad evil people, if you make an NPC really integral to the story and the players don't bite on it, you can run into some issues of like figuring out how to progress your story.
I actually had that problem, kinda. They were they were sent to this city state. They were the guy running it. I don't remember what title I gave him. Some sort of lord. Xavier. What's his name? Was running. Was like the emperor's like distant cousin. So like one of the players was a paladin, and this paladin was part of like the order that works for the emperor, and then he had the other party members with him because they were like his team. That's how they that was the backstory for how they knew each other. So they went there, and it worked out great. It started doing quests, starting solving some mysteries, and then I was setting up that at this party they were at, the emperor got like mind controlled, and they never saw it. They were out by the distraction, this dueling jousting tournament, and so they didn't see it. So the next time they went there, I was like. I made the guard captain act more aggressive and hint and like very, very different than before. Like he doesn't have time to see you. Like you're like they weren't important. Like really try to act it differently. It didn't pick up on it at all. They just thought, okay, it's not time to progress the main story yet. Let's go do side quests. And so they did that for 4 sessions. I was like, oh man, they didn't notice.
And I mean, hey, sometimes that happens. See, the way that our brains work and the way that our players' brains works is going to be different. So, and that's just part of the fun of trying to figure out, okay, well, shoot, what do I do next now? If they're not going to bite on this lead, then it's time to bring in something else.
I try really hard not to railroad, but like for stuff like this, like sometimes you just got to, Like the game I'm currently running, it was really important that they meet these 4 specific NPCs that are sort of mob bosses. I mean, it's probably the best way to put them is they're mob bosses for different quadrants of this magical city. And I just like, they essentially got like kidnapped in every quadrant to like go meet the mob bosses.
I didn't want to railroad them, but like I remember one time there was like a player couldn't come, so when we were still going to play, usually I want all the players to be able to be there. But like, okay, so I'm thinking something up. And what I just thought was like, they're in the city, so we're like, she gets like separated from them for like, and she gets taken by these bandits, like street thugs, so they have to go save her. And I said they didn't like that, so they felt like they got railroaded.
Well, like that's whenever my players feel like they get railroaded, I'm like, well, if you had just been smart about things, this wouldn't be an issue.
It's not even like being smart about it. It's just like not picking up on stuff. So you have to, show it a little more forcefully.
Right. Yeah, the campaign I'm currently running has been more railroady up to this point, but it's about to get a whole lot less railroady.
Yeah. I will admit my Sunday game is slightly being railroaded because like they got a letter from one of their contacts that was like, I'm in danger. And so it took them like a solid 2 sessions to realize maybe we should go help him. So that's where they're heading now. So, but we're also gearing up for some really big plot stuff, and I'm really excited. So
Nice. So what's something like y'all try to avoid with NPCs? Like, is there something you're just like, I don't like doing this, or
GM NPCs. Don't do it.
Well, that means we're gonna have a fun mailbag later.
ooh boy.
I try to.
I usually.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
I try to avoid love interest NPCs. I did let somebody like sleep with an NPC, but only because I wanted her family, who was really important, to get really pissed off at the party. That's about as far as I'll go there.
Yeah. For me, I usually try and avoid using, like, as easy as it sounds like it should be, avoid using the same name for NPCs just so that it's not as hard to, like, remember, who's who. And then you have, 2 characters in the same party, both named Tegan. So, like, oh no, what have we done?
Just create an NPC called Regan and just have all the fun.
Oh God.
Tegan, and Regan.
Oh God. No, it's fish sticks and good Tegan. So.
Is good Tegan actually good, or is it just like that's what they call them?
She's good. She's good. And she's also the first one who came into the party anyway. So, and also the other Tegan is a bard, so you know how that goes. We love you.
I would be like something like real Tegan, backup Tegan.
Yeah,
backup Tegan.
That's about how the party has reacted to it, or at least a couple people in the party.
All right, since we've teased it, do y'all want to get to the mailbag a bit?
Let's go.
So from the DM's anonymous Discord, which is where all these are coming from, boutique.
Link will be in the description, right, Jacob?
I will try to remember this time. How do you handle companion NPCs and DMPCs? We all know Andreas hates them and wants to kick them in the teeth, but I
am the GM, so I play all the NPCs, but I don't like the idea of a steady GMPC / power NPC / railroad NPC. I just don't. I don't like it. I think it's a bad idea. I think it's bad for the game.
I shouldn't say never, but I very rarely send an NPC with the party. Holy's the one exception because he's technically an item, but he was there to like cause trouble and be useful.
Yeah, I mean they can be like they could run into someone that might help them temporarily that I play. That's fine. Like I just don't like someone steady. So like I, the GM now, is part of the party. I just don't think it's a good idea. The one of the where I think where it's kind of a GM NPC, because it's like, oh, it's like a living weapon. But I think that's okay.
Mm.
If you play a living weapon, like, they're also super fun. Like and super interesting for the players to get.
Yeah, in the game we're playing, my wife has a great axe that has a Cockney accent, and the DM has a lot of fun with that.
Oh, fancy a pint, governor? Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the game that came before my Sunday game, my character had a living weapon, who then turned into the BBEG for this game. So, no, I am well acquainted with talking weapons, but one of the other people in the party has a Valkyrie trapped in a spear as a character, but unfortunately, like, we haven't had a whole lot of situations where, like, we've been able to have her really get to talk, just because there haven't been a whole lot of opportunities, because I feel like I want to, like, bring her in at, like, the worst possible moments. So, like, if he's talking to, like, a really important NPC, or if he's having, like, a deep heart-to-heart, and just have her come in, well, hello there. Allow me to input my absolutely needed input. So, but no, I think in general, as long as you do it right and you're not using them to railroad, GMPCs can be utilized effectively. You just need to be careful that they're not becoming the star of the show, because that should be your players.
Right. Yeah, I think the longest I've had any NPC with the party was like 3/4 of a session. Basically, I'm going to guide you through the mountains so I didn't have to deal with travel, and that was about it.
I think the best. This wasn't a GMPC as per se. It was just an NPC with the party, and it was kind of weak. But one of the best examples I've seen of an NPC going with the party for multiple sessions that worked really well was in Critical Role with a Kinku called Kiri, which was just, if anyone's seen that of the listeners, it's a great interaction. The party got super attached to this Kinku child, who, like, and he played it so well. It was
so how often do you kill off the NPC that the players are really attached to?
I mean, I don't want to just. It's not like I don't usually play like grim dark fantasy in my role playing games, but like it can have a great impact on the story and on the emotions of the players. So I mean, I'm not saying I would never do it, but it would have to make sense. And usually, I would prefer that that it's something. It's on a consequence of something the players did, so they don't feel like I just like snipe their favorite NPC to make them feel things.
But being a fan of Jim Butcher and Dresden Files, I'm just like, oh, you like this character? Well, let's see how much torture we can put it through.
Let's see if we can break them, or turn them into knights and then break them.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely agree with Andreas. Like, if it's not going to make sense with the story, and it's not like a direct consequence of something that the players have done, it's not as impactful.
Yeah, do you ever bring in an NPC just to kill them? Because I've definitely had that planned, to where like this person's going to get like into the party and then get killed, and that's their motivation for like doing something.
I've never introduced an NPC with the idea that they should die, except maybe, minor villains. They will usually end up dead. But like a neutral or an NPC that's like friendly to the party, I've never been like, I'm gonna kill this guy.
So you are not Game of Thrones George R. Martining around.
I'm not a grim dark kind of like the fantasy I read as well is not really grim dark, but I mean I do. We'll see. We'll see if I can get more into it. Yeah, Grimdark. It could be fun. Could be fun to do it. I can definitely see the attraction.
Next episode, Andreas is gonna be like, "Yep, I definitely killed 3 different NPCs."
Next episode, I'm just gonna be like, my hair's dyed black, and black nail. I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I killed everybody, man. It's like nobody's safe.
Okay, next question from Bourbon Baccarat. What are some strategies for making your villain sufficiently evil without resorting to tropes like burning down puppy orphanages?
Giving them connections to the players.
Do what?
Sorry, Andreas first. Go ahead.
I just said I have not heard about the puppy orphanage trope. That's a new trope to me. What did you say, Ari?
Giving them connections to the players. So again, for I'm just gonna keep referencing the Sunday game because it's the biggest game I've run in a long time. But like the big bad for this game, I mean, as I said, like he was like way back attached to my character from that game before my character kind of sort of bit the dust. And so now everybody in the party has an attachment to that character in some way or another. Like for one, I mean, he's a paladin. He's just going to be like, I am going to defeat this demon because that's what I do. The sorcerer is just kind of along for the ride because, like, you're a nasty man. You're a nasty boy, Batman. And the Inquisitor is like, first of all, you stole my eye. Second of all, there might be unresolved things that I wanted to do with that other character that you might have killed. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think a good example of like motivation for a big bad is Thanos from the MCU.
Not comic book Thanos, but MCU Thanos, because their motivations are very different.
Well, I've never read the comics, but
the difference.
Trying to seduce death.
Yeah. So, like in the movies, he's a great example because he's like overpopulation. I mean, you can when you watch the movie and like nobody's like everybody I've talked to, they're like, yeah, I mean, the man's got a point.
Right. And so that's sort of like, let's not. Because it's easy to just go, I want to take over the world or kill everybody.
Yeah, to kill everybody. In the comic books, he wants to kill half the universe because he's in love with death and he wants her attention.
Right. I remember hearing about that. Which, hey, that would be a really great, like, because I mean, I'm sure there's some form of death at least in the D&D universe. That'd be a great story.
It's usually represented by the Raven Queen in my campaigns.
Right. Yeah. So maybe that's a good one. But like, yeah, if you can give the big bad a believable reason for wanting to do what he wants to do.
Yeah. I mean, I approach it kind of differently. I'm not a great writer. I mean, and tropes are tropes for a reason. Like they usually work.
Right.
I say there's nothing wrong with embracing tropes. If you're like a mediocre / non-existent storyteller, but you still want to run campaigns and have fun, you can do that, and you can embrace tropes. And I think the most important is like what Jacob brought up is, especially for your more overarching villains. Maybe not so much the local villains; they can be kind of cliche. But if you like nobody's a villain in their own mind usually. So think about their motivations and why they do what they do and what is their goal. What do they want? Maybe this lich wants to turn everybody into undead because he wants to stop, people dying. He's like, he lost people he loved, and he's like, he wants nobody else to feel this, so everybody has to be undead because then nobody will die. That's probably a trope. That sounds tropey to me. But, I mean, I think that could work.
Yeah, for sure.
Believable motivation and and a compelling, like somewhat compelling argument.
And especially, and I'm sure Pathfinder is the same way, but in D&D, like the backstories for all the evil gods and demi-liches and, big baddies, like their backstories are really deep. But you just pick something out of the backstory, like, and this is why she hates everybody.
You can definitely do that.
Oh, yeah.
I really like using my players' backgrounds. They write a background story, and then I expand on it. Like I try to find a conflict or villain in each backstory, and as they go through the campaign, they're gonna go through each person's backstory, which I will expand upon and build on.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll run into usually not always a villain. It could be other stuff too, but often it's a villain from their backstory, which is like great impact on the players, especially the guys whose backstory it is, right?
Right. Yeah, in the game I'm running, I've built a lot of the mechanics around the big bad, and like basically the big bad is trying to take over the Gith again because they have the ability to sail the astral sea, and everyone's trying to stop that because the big bad wants to re-enslave humanity. So at the very beginning of history, humanity was enslaved by the dragons. And then the way this is going, the big bad, the demi guinea pig, which is the big bad, help the dragons enslave humanity or the material plane. And he's pissed off that the material plane, overthrew their rulers, and he's ready to start killing people again.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of realizing that my big bad is actually just kind of chilling out right now. Like he's keeping an eye on the players, but I mean he is busy in those lower planes, just doing his job as executioner. So he's just chilling. It's just the party is just coming for him because like you have wronged us in the past. It is time to stop.
You just mentioned dragons. Am I the only one who feels like, especially dragons, they're actually pretty hard to work with in a compelling storytelling way. They're pretty one-dimensional. The evil dragons, at least.
Yeah, well, it's more that they're in this story, they're more of a plot device than actual characters. So in times past, thousands of years ago, the dragons ruled the material plane. Then humans figured out magic and overthrew them. That's really how they're in my campaign. They're not like, I'm not going to have like, the Knights of the Dragon Round Table kind of thing going on.
No, I was just, especially when you play Dungeons and Dragons, right? I usually want to include some dragons in the campaign. But I mean, the most interesting dragon I've made so far is it young adult they're called? Like they look like dragons, but they're still like the challenge rating 4 or something. I don't remember exactly. Which was like the idea with this dragon was that he was the son of this really powerful blue dragon, and now he'd struck out to make it on his own. He's made his own little lair in a desert in an oasis, and like he was gonna live up to his father's name, and he gets his ass horribly handed to him by the party. And like he's like, my father will hear of this, Lucius Malfoy. You will rue the day. And he was like he had no confidence at all. He pretended like he had confidence, but he was like a super insecure dragon. That's probably the most interesting dragon I've made so far. They're just hard to work with, I feel like as characters.
Yeah, they're much better as just things to kill.
Yeah, I think I've used like one dragon in one of my games so far. I've probably used others, but I'm drawing a blank. But it actually was like an avatar of one of the goddesses of the realm. So
Yeah, in my campaign, even the Raven Queen is scared of this like overarching deity that's ready to take down humanity again.
So he's like a god to the gods, kinda, or
Yeah, he's just a big. Well, actually, it's going to be a she. She's a very big badass.
he's like a
Uh,
walker, maybe
do what?
a walker, or like one the walker's bosses. That's a Dresden File reference for the people who
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, kind of like that. Yeah.
Like outside
hmm
reality, kinda, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely outside reality. And I'm going to be reskinning one of the really big monsters from Mordecai's.
Mordecai's is I haven't read through that book so much, but it has a lot of like pretty compared to the power level of a lot of the other books, it's pretty up there, right?
Yeah. Oh no, it's definitely got some of the biggest monsters in. I think it's got the biggest monsters in official D&D. And they got like it's a lot of backstory too. Like if you like backstory and that kind of stuff, Mordecai's is great. There's so much in there. And like one thing they did that a lot of the like monster manual monsters don't have is a lot of them have these like lair actions. Like I was reading through it, like if like with the Demogorgon, like if you're within 5 miles of its lair, you have to make like Constitution saving checks like every 8 hours, or you start like getting levels of madness and all this crazy stuff.
Oh, speaking of lair actions, have any of you got it or read it or plan to the Strongholds and Followers book from Matt Colville?
I have not. I've never even heard of it.
Neither have
Uh,
I.
okay, it's gotten kind of mixed reviews, but I was like pretty hyped for it because the idea is that it's a supplement for fifth edition for the people who don't know. They give characters something to spend money on, extend their influence in the local area, like build up a castle, their like base, and there's all kinds of mechanics tied to that, and crafting some magic items. Or one of the coolest things I saw you can get is that you can give your party like one-time use lair actions.
Huh. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I actually think it seems like a cool idea, but from what I read from the reviews, it's kind of people feel it references. He's like written another book he's gonna put out, and there's stuff in this book that references that, but they can't get the other book yet. So it feels like half a book, people say, which is
Hmm.
unfortunate. But I really like the idea about it.
Yeah, there's what is it? Limitless Adventures. They have some pretty good stuff out there for like extra baddies and like they develop different types of dragons and other types of monsters. It was pretty good. I.e., basically Kickstarter has all the stuff you could ever want for D&D.
Yeah, I got a book incoming from there called Odyssey of the Dragon Lord, which is both a setting and a campaign, which I am super excited to run.
Nice.
It's like think ancient Greece mythology, but Dungeon and Dragons with dragons put in there.
Yeah,
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. I'm going to have to check that out. I'm waiting for my Lasers and Liches books to show up finally.
You were super hyped about that one.
Yeah, it looks like so much fun.
The best part about Odyssey thing, the writers on it is like people who's written story for stuff like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 and Knights of the Old Republic.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, from the lead designer of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 and KOTOR. Damn, that's awesome. How much is it? PDF. Okay, so $25 for the PDFs. That's not bad. Ooh, $60 for the hardcover.
It's so pretty.
I'm such a sucker for like physical books. Like it's great that there's so much content in digital form, but I am such a sucker for like a physical book. Like it kills me Eberron isn't physical.
Yeah, I like reading physical when I have to read not on a screen.
Right. Me
It's
too.
like a lot.
And so like I've actually thought about like using my discount to get it would still be like $100, but to get like a nice version of Eberron printed out for me.
Can't you? There's no, you can't. There is this shop that my roommate uses where they like kind of print to order, but I don't think they do official things. Only like people they got deals with.
Yeah. That's generally what it is. But all right, moving on. How do you react when players take a liking to a very minor NPC for which you had little prepared?
Time to start fleshing them out.
Yeah, start fleshing it, go with it. That's that troll NPC again I talked about. I hadn't much prepared beyond. He was a good troll who was bullied by the other trolls, and he made a friend with this little girl. And then I kind of had to expand on that interaction. As they just like, this NPC is the best.
It actually kind of accidentally happened last Sunday. The half giant in the party was trying to do an arm wrestling competition. So I just had like a rando who was sitting at the mercenary guild, like, hey, I'll challenge you to arm wrestling contest. And it was one of those glorious moments where, one person rolls a nat 20 on the strength check and the other person rolls a nat 1. So rando got thrown across the room, and the party wound up hiring him. So I've been kind of fleshing him out, and hurrah, he has his own itty bitty story now.
Yeah, I generally have like at least some kind of idea for my NPCs, unless they just like really go off the rails and I got to make somebody up on the fly. But I'll generally have like a motivation and something else. But the NPC, the ones on the fly, I try to make disposable as possible.
The worst part is keeping track of those disposable NPCs, right? Where
I know.
Like it's like, okay, you made up Johnny, the one-armed god guy, and then like I don't know, 2 months later they want to go back and see him, and you're like,
who?
What did he sound like again? How are you? Shit. Like making a little note with like, it's this guy's. This is who he is, and like a description of what he sounds like.
Yeah, my players aren't very good at it, but I've asked them like, okay, if you meet somebody, please write it down in this document so I can remember.
Yeah, no, like while I'm DMing, I'm like constantly taking notes, be it like stupid, silly things that they're saying or like character names I'm coming up with on the fly, and just like making sure that everything is still like in line with like the plans that I have. So, and it's also good to like look back to see like what the party should already know. So,
right, that's another reason I try to record my sessions so I can like go back and listen if I've forgotten anything.
Mm-hmm.
I can't afford it, but there's a great service out there called Voicea, and it's like this AI note-taking system, and it's awesome. Like you can you'll create like an entire transcript of whatever it's heard, and you can set up keywords. So like, because I did the free trial, and it was like every time I say the word gold, create like a special snippet in the notes, and so I could like remember how much gold I've given out or that kind of thing. So I created like all these different keywords, and it was really great, but it's like $35 a month. I'm just like,
cow.
oof. It's designed for corporations, like.
Well, yeah,
but if I could, I could afford it. I don't want to afford it that bad, But
yeah.
I'm just like, it would.
It's not worth $35 a month,
right? Yeah, but
or at least for you for right now.
But if you play online or can just record your session, suggest to do the free trial because it is pretty cool. Okay, last mailbag question from the Maniac Gentleman. How do you flesh out your homebrew pantheons? What are your sources of inspiration? how do your pantheons differ from others?
Oh boy. So one of the first big games that I ever ran spawned from the fact that I had like 25 characters that I'd made up for something completely unrelated. That like I wound up dropping that project, and I was like, I still have these characters. I still really like these characters. I'm just going to make them into a pantheon. So, and then like an entire game spawned from that. And so for me, it was just a matter of like sitting down and figuring out like, okay, what are the relationships between these characters? What aspects of this world need to be covered? So be it like light or luck or in the pantheon there's a goddess of death and a goddess of undeath, and the two of them are like rival forces. There's a god of wisdom and a god of strength, and each of them like kind of like was slowly trying to gain the upper hand over the other one by influencing the leaders of the world. So definitely looking up other pantheons just from around the world and seeing like the mythology and the interplay between those gods definitely was a big thing. And also just making gods that are worth worshipping. Like if there's no reason for the characters to follow that god, then there's no reason to have that god in your pantheon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't do too much with like custom pantheons besides like this big bad I'm making. But what I will do is create like different rules around how they work. So in one game, the idea was that the more followers a certain god had, the stronger they were. So the entire thing was them trying to influence more and more people so the gods could get stronger and stronger.
I don't really have a good answer for this question because usually the gods I used are lifted wholesale from one specific, like it was the ones that Matthew Mercer used in campaign 1, which was the Pathfinder gods, I think, for a certain story or something.
Sounds about right, I think.
Yeah, that's just the gods I've been using when I run D&D.
Yeah, I just pull straight from the book. I mean, that's just something I'm not giving like a ton of thought to.
Another game that I'm running, we have one god for each alignment. So, like depending on your alignment, that's where you'll go in the afterlife. It's not so much that people are exactly like just worshiping the god that their alignment is with, though. It's usually like within that one step. So, like for example, if you're neutral good, you might worship the chaotic good god, or so on and so forth.
So I think Ari has our item of the podcast.
I do. It is the Ring of the Ram. And I could actually pull it up. I put it in the Discord. But, so Ring of the Ram, according to Rule 20, the ring has 3 charges and it regains 1d3 expended charges daily at dawn. While wearing the ring, you can use an action to expend 1 to 3 of its charges to attack one creature you can see within 60 feet of you. Ring produces a spectral ram's head and makes its attack roll with a +7 bonus. On a hit, for each charge you spend, the target takes 2d10 force damage and is pushed 5 feet away from you. Alternatively, you can expend 1 to 3 of the ring's charges as an action to try and break an object you can see within 60 feet of you that's being worn or carried. The ring makes a strength check with a +5 bonus for each charge you spend.
It's interesting to me that it's the ring is doing this and not the player.
Yeah, it's definitely like, because I'm so used to like an item like that, like just adding to your strength modifier to do these things. But no, it's the ring itself.
Right, and it's probably just flavor text, but like the ring produces a spectral ram's head. Like
Mhm.
that to me seems like, if you were stealthing, that would screw up your stealth, your ability to be hidden. Because
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
in my head, obviously it's a fucking Patronus, right? I mean, that's
Yeah,
what in
yeah.
my head, that's what it is. So I don't, man, there's a lot there in the flavor text that I
Mhm.
think could be very interesting.
Yeah. Like, and I definitely like that you can choose how many charges to expend to either gain bonuses to break stuff or do more damage or push it further away from you. But I would definitely rule like you have to say how many charges you're expending before you roll to attack.
Well, yeah, of
So,
Which
course.
also,
so
Choose
which
how
also,
many charges you use before you actually.
and would you say that they stack? So if you use 3 charges, it's 60-10 damage.
yeah.
Man, that's vicious.
I wouldn't do that.
You wouldn't have them stack. So why would you ever want to expend more than 1 charge at a time?
Well, you can.
There's also considering like if you say, okay, I'm going to expend all 3 of them at the same time. If you miss, I would rule that those charges are expended. Like you can't get
Right.
those back.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I would make the. You don't increase the attack roll, but I think the damage would increase
Yeah,
because
damage would increase. I would say that the like that +7 bonus for the attack that would only be counted once.
right.
Yeah, I think you can. I mean, since it says you can use more at once, I don't want to give the plus to hit because that's basically a guaranteed hit for 60 damage if you use all 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Or not 60 damage, but like somewhere between 30 and 60.
Right.
But I would, and I wouldn't stack the push either. Just
The push I could see being stacked, but that would just be a like a personal choice. So,
Oh yeah, I mean, I man, yeah, because it makes sense that if you there's no reason to use an extra charge unless it stacks. And there are definitely reasons to want to, instead of dealing damage, push something 15 feet.
it's
Right.
funny though. The second part of it says what happens when it stacks, but the first part does not. Even though
Yeah.
it can stack.
Right. This +5 bonus for each charge you spend.
Yeah.
Man, +15 to strength. That's sick.
Fun times.
I mean, that's
But the ring makes a strength check
right.
Yes.
with a +5 bonus for each charge you spend. Not you, the ring.
Right. But still, it's +15 strength if you use all
Yeah.
3 of them. That's a lot of plus in D&D.
Yeah.
It's a lot of damage.
Shouldn't the ring have stats, or is it strength just 0? I guess then.
I'm guessing it's 0 until you start expending charges.
Yeah. So I can get
Yeah.
from 5, 10, or 15 plus to strength, and then roll.
Right, which that would be but it is it is specifically to break an object you can see.
Yeah,
So
which
it's not
gets
like
into,
you can like Hulk out if you're restrained with it.
yeah.
How do you guys do a D3 since that's not a dice? I just say 1d6 divided by 2, round up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same here.
Yeah. Agreed.
I used to have a D3, but it has been misplaced. I need to find another one at some point. They're kind of funky looking, but they're kind of like the triangular prisms, pretty much, is the shape, but it's that point.
People are I just Google it and like, oh, I'm looking for like a D I'm looking for a D7.
God. No, D7s are wild looking.
The only like quote unquote special dice I have is I bought a D100 just for funsies.
Nice.
That
I have a
thing never quits
D30.
rolling.
Nice. Yeah, it's a golf ball.
Yeah.
I found a D30 for like $1 at like a thrift store. I was like, that's fine now. And I have only used it for a random table that I made. So, but technically speaking, I could totally just use that for a D3.
Yeah.
But
Ooh, I just found a D120.
I think that's the biggest that there is.
It's for like someone is 3D printed like a D500 or something stupid.
Yeah.
How would you even make that?
Probably the same. Like it would have to be the same way you make a D10 because the most number of faces a single. Oh God, I forgot the terminology, but
But you can't have a dice.
like I think
500.
I think 120 is the most faces that an item can have, or like a object can have.
Like a polyhedral.
Yeah. Polyhedral. That's it. Listen, I haven't taken a math class in like probably like 4 or 5 years, so miss me with that.
What's that? I passed my high school. It's different here, but math, and I've never had math since. It's like, no, thank you.
Oh yeah, it's been a long time for me. I'm starting to feel old talking to you.
I mean, it's been 14 years for me since I had math education.
I'm trying to think when my last actual math course was, because I've had courses that involve a lot of math, but not actual math courses. Because I didn't have one in my master's. Well, I did have econ. That's kind of math.
Yeah, count it.
So back in university.
Well, yeah. Well, my second time through the university. All righty. Well, I think we're about wrapping things up. Any last things anyone wants to shout out there?
I want to give a massive shout out to my stinking players. I don't deserve y'all, and I love you.
Yeah, like I said at the top, you can find us Broken Jars at XYZ. You can find me on Twitter at Jacob Ingles. Yeah, I don't do a whole lot on the internet, but that's where I do most of it. You can check out my other podcast, Great Scott, if you're a fan of The Office. We are in season 9, so yeah, our next episode will be our 70th episode, so you're gonna have a lot of backlog if you want to start listening.
I have never seen The American Office.
It's good.
Or the UK Office. I've never seen The Office. But I mean, I know I use GIFs from there a lot.
Friendship over, dude.
Aw.
And it's GIF, motherfucker.
GIF. I mean,
GIF is a peanut butter.
I don't know. We don't have peanut butter here, so.
Really?
Okay, sure. We have peanut butter, but it's not normal to eat. But there is peanut butter, but
Weird.
rarely a thing.
On Twitter, it's an Ari. That's about all I do on the internet these days. So, yeah.
You can find me on Mixer, mixer.com/LanceQT. You can find me on YouTube. Same thing, I think. I'm actually going to put up an actual YouTube video on my own this month. That's the plan.
Cool.
And you can find me on the Broken Jars Dresden Files podcast.
Awesome. Well, and like I said, please, if you're gonna buy some stuff to drive to RPG, please use our link in the show notes.
Is there a discount with that, Jacob, or is it just
I am the first to find out about sales. So if people are interested, I can set you up with a feed so you can be the first to know about like sale items.
But there's no actual discount on the code, affiliate code. It's just often there is, so I wasn't sure if we had that or not.
Not this particular one. They do roll out different discounts at different times. So I will also, when I can, put those in the notes as well. But right now, it's just your basic banner thingy. But yeah. I will. We just got this, so I'm still trying to figure out all the ins and outs of it.
Cool.
Yeah, we will. We'll see everybody next time.
Till then.
Bye.
Until then.